So a while back I did a video about the Grand Theft Auto Trilogy and what it was like returning to Grand Theft Auto's earliest 3D entries after all of these years, and how it performed on the Steam Deck after about a year or so of updates from Rockstar. So today I kinda wanted to do a follow-up to that video, returning to the middle ground between the original 3D trilogy and modern GTA with Grand Theft Auto 4, which, despite playing it and enjoying it back in 2008 when it first came out, I never actually got around to finishing this game. And considering the Steam Deck is a really great way to revisit those older titles, and usually in pretty excellent quality, I figured that's what I would do today, is just sort of take a look at how Grand Theft Auto 4 holds up in the modern age, and then also talk a little bit about performance on deck. So first, let's start with the game itself. GTA 4 takes place in an updated Liberty City, although crucially this is not set within the same continuity of Grand Theft Auto 1 through 3, and rather served as a reboot for the series, with this timeline continuing through GTA 5, and while Niko hasn't made an appearance in GTA 5, there are numerous nods and Easter eggs that reference him. And Grand Theft Auto 4 is where his story begins. Arriving via cargo ship as a former soldier from Eastern Europe, you'll be reconnecting with your cousin Roman and starting fresh. Or at least you'll try to start fresh, because Roman may have overstated his life of luxury in America by just a little bit, and it becomes clear pretty quickly that you're going to have to rescue him from some bad life choices more than a few times. Before you know it, you'll be making contact with various criminals and pulling jobs throughout the city. And I have to say that out of all of the GTA protagonists that I've played as through the years, Niko might be my favorite. Now don't get me wrong, I still have lots of love for CJ, Claude, and Tommy, but Niko feels like a deliberate attempt to make for a more grounded GTA story, and that's thanks to some solid voice acting and Rockstar really reining in some of the overtopness of the series with some great character moments. Of course, you could also argue that Liberty City itself is a character, and on that front the world of GTA 4 has some notable features that separate it from its precursors. For starters, Liberty City is absolutely gorgeous, but not in a shiny, over-the-top way like Vice City, but rather in a grimier, more realistic way. I love the lighting system they use here, and it's still impressive driving underneath the train tracks while the sun casts long shadows onto the road. And speaking of the environment, rain and weather effects are also really improved here, with a lot of little details that really sell it. For instance, it started pouring the rain after I started the crime and punishment mission, and it was cool not just seeing people walking around with umbrellas as you'd expect, but also watching NPCs rush through the rain with newspapers held over their heads. This version of Liberty City might be more subdued than its more colorful counterparts, but it's still richly detailed, fun to traverse, and it keeps the series' sense of humor fully intact. It might not be as far-reaching geographically as San Andreas or Grand Theft Auto 5, but there's still a lot of ground to cover here, and just about every square inch of the city is full of personality no matter which district you're cruising through. And speaking of driving, considering that's a pretty core part of any GTA experience, this was apparently a big point of contention in GTA 4 because the driving here feels a lot different than in prior entries. Mostly because it's a lot more realistic and a lot less arcadey, so it's not uncommon to catch yourself sort of sliding through a turn if you're traveling at even just a moderately high speed. I wouldn't say it's bad necessarily, it just takes some adjustment to drive slightly more conservatively if you want to keep from completely demolishing your ride during a high-speed chase. Now personally I try to roleplay these games as a clean, efficient criminal, so unless a mission requires it, I drive in the most ho-hum way so as not to attract attention. But if you do end up getting totally wrecked, it will look totally gorgeous because car damage is excellent in Grand Theft Auto 4, and I believe that's thanks to the Euphoria physics engine at play. And while this might not seem that mind-blowing in the present day, it's kind of crazy how advanced all of this was for 2008, and it's still really entertaining when things go off the rails. Plus, you can always hit your local paint spray to cool off your wanted level and make your ride pristine again. Also, beyond driving around, it's pretty great that Rockstar saw fit to include a fully functional subway system, which is nice if you want to take in the sights as a passenger in Liberty City for just a little bit. And as an ancillary benefit, it's also great for evading the police if you start raising your wanted level and need to sneak away. So whether you're walking around on foot to take in the sights, catching the train, or just doing some chaotic Grand Theft Autoing, it all feels alive with activity and is great fun to explore. Of course, Liberty City and its many activities aside, you've also got some expanded capabilities for Niko as well. Probably the most notable that I appreciated was the introduction of cover shooting, which makes high-octane missions a lot easier to manage. You can also climb ladders or shimmy on ledges, which lets mission design have a lot more verticality and just generally enriches the experience. There's a lot of other enhancements as well, like a bigger reliance on your cell phone for mission communications, turn-by-turn navigation to make getting around the city easier, and the ability to watch TV if you just want to chill out and take in some programming that sometimes feels a little less like parody in the modern age. But it's really interesting seeing all of these early era enhancements that Rockstar made to the formula, and how they go on to influence what they've done in GTA 5 and are probably working on for GTA 6. So yeah, GTA 4 might look a little bit dated on a technical level, and it's not really overflowing with content the way we would expect from an open world game in the modern age, but nonetheless it is still a bonkers good time. So how did it perform on the Steam Deck? First off, just like any other Rockstar game, you will have to go through their launcher first, but once you complete this process, subsequent starts of the game shouldn't hassle you anymore, or at least it hasn't for me after jumping in a few dozen times over the past few weeks. From launch to load in, it takes about a minute and a half, and once you're there you can expect a pretty consistent 60 frames per second at the default settings, although you can max everything out and still keep things mostly steady with occasional drops to the low 50s. Thankfully, as you flip through the various graphics options, it will tell you pretty plainly what's going to be affecting video memory and GPU performance, so you can tweak things to your liking. Personally, I left most of these options at their default values, though I did up the shadow quality to high and still had a pretty good experience with it. I haven't tried any mods for GTA 4 yet, though I would really like to at some point, because apparently there are some very cool ones out there that will add more vehicle variety and just improve visuals overall. Which, speaking of the visuals, these mostly look just fine on the deck. You will see occasional flickering and pop in while driving around, which is pretty much unavoidable as far as I've seen, but neither of these are so distracting that they detract in any major way from the artistry that's on display here. And if you want to take in all of the majesty of GTA 4 on the go, you can expect to get about an hour and a half to 2 hours of battery life. At the end of the day, GTA 4 is still a lot of fun on its own merit, with memorable characters and interesting tech powering the whole experience. But beyond the raw fun to be had from watching the story continually raising the stakes for Niko, or just causing as much mayhem as the Euphoria engine can handle, it's a fascinating game to revisit and certainly a great way to get hyped for GTA 6. And considering you can play a native copy of it on a handheld with performance like this really is just the cherry on top. And that pretty much encapsulates what my experience has been like so far with Grand Theft Auto 4, and it's kind of crazy because Resident Evil 4 did just come out and I was super excited to play it, and I have played it, although I kind of left off around Chapter 3 and really just got sucked into playing a whole lot more Grand Theft Auto 4, so, you know, go figure. But hey, what about you? Did you ever play Grand Theft Auto 4 before, or have you tried it on the deck, and if so, what has your experience been like? As always, thank you so much for taking the time to watch these videos. I appreciate you. Take care, and I'll see you on the next one.